Hi there. Just a quick message before the episode begins. If you enjoy this show, please support the podcast. You can do so by going to convome.com/support. There, you'll be able to buy me a coffee or two or 10. And for extra perks, you can become a monthly podcast supporter. More information is available at convome.com/support. Thank you in advance, and I appreciate you appreciating me and the podcast. Now, on to the episode. Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of the podcast. I'm your host, Ijama, and I thank you for joining me. My guest this week is a return guest. She's Becky, and she is a former Etsy seller, and now she is a social media manager. Becky was actually on the podcast a year ago this month. She was my guest back in May of 2021. At the time, she was selling on Etsy, and a lot has happened in the last year for many of us. And so I'm glad to have her on. We're going to be talking about social media and particularly social media for Etsy sellers. So, Becky, thank you so much for being my guest again and welcome back to the podcast.
Hi, yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, I'm so glad to have you and congratulations on all the changes in your life. I know things have changed quite significantly in over the last year since we last chatted.
Yes, they have.
Well, that's good. And I'm glad that they're good changes because, as we all know, the last couple of years have brought some not so great things. So
Mhm.
it's nice to have a refreshing conversation about good things that are happening.
Yes, absolutely.
So please tell us what exactly has led you from going from being an Etsy seller to social media manager.
Yeah, I'll pick up from where I left off a year ago. So when I had spoken to you in May, I was working full time at my day job, and then I was running my Etsy shop. My husband and I were planning a wedding. And my now husband and I were planning a wedding, and then I had also started this business, but I was not talking about it. I started this business in March 2021, but it wasn't at the forefront of my life at the time. I started it because while I was working on my Etsy shop, I started realizing how much I liked doing the back end business tasks, like
Mhm.
updating my list, taking product shots of my jewelry, and creating content for my social media. And I was talking to some of my entrepreneur friends, and they were like, you could make a business out of that. And I was like, "Sorry? Tell me more." And, so I actually started what is called a virtual assistant business. I wasn't even thinking about social media management. I didn't even know social media management was a job in the digital space. So I started this virtual assistant company, and my very first client was a social media manager client. And she was a referral from a friend, and my friend was like, "Hey, do you want to help this person out with their social media?" And I was like, yeah, I can do that. And then I just fell in love with it. And fast forward to now, I had left my day job and I now do this full time. And I ended up putting my Etsy shop on vacation mode because I got so busy with my social media company. That brings me to today.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
It's always nice to fall into a new career and or start a new business based on something that you have a passion for and that you were already doing for free, and then to get paid for it is like icing on the cake, I would imagine, for you.
Yes, yeah, it was. I really love doing this. It's been so much fun.
How was it when you got your first client? Did you have any reservations about doing it for someone else, since up until that point you had been doing it for yourself?
Oh yeah, I was. a nervous wreck. I I she was a referral. She's actually still my client to this day.
Nice.
I love her to death. And she was a referral, and I really just felt confident that I could do it. And then when it came down to it, I'm like, I don't know how to invoice her. I don't know how to access her Instagram. Like, I didn't know all of those, like, things that are just so second nature to me now. But
Yeah.
yeah, I was very panicky, but she was really gracious with me and allowed me to learn, and it's been a great relationship ever since.
How did you figure out the business end of it? Like you said, invoicing and creating a contract, which I'm sure at this point now you have those systems in place. But how did you figure those things out? Was it trial and error? Did you get a coach or s- study, like get a virtual assistant mentor? What was your
Yep.
path?
I was actually quite lucky, and I already had 2 friends in the entrepreneur space.
Mhm.
One of my friends is a web design, she has a web design company, so she kind of told me what I needed to do, that I needed a contract, and then she told me a couple of programs I could use for invoicing. So in case anybody's curious, the 2 big ones in my industry are HoneyBook and Dubsado.
Yeah.
So I ended up going with Dubsado, and I joined a ton of Facebook groups because that is that is the quickest way to learn for free. Facebook groups and YouTube,
Yeah.
and I found a Facebook group that just had a ton of information, and it was for virtual assistants. And so I signed up for a program because remember, I was originally starting this business to be a virtual assistant. I didn't know I
Yeah.
was going to be a social media manager. So they had a virtual assistant contract. So I used their contract, and then I set up my invoicing through Dubsado, and that's how I got started. And now my contract has since changed. Now that I'm not doing virtual assistant work,
Mhm.
it makes more sense for social media management. But that is how I got my foot in the door.
Wow, I tell you, those Facebook groups can be a treasure trove sometimes when you're in
Yes.
need and you don't have the budget to um, buy some of the more expensive courses. So great. And I have heard of Honeybook and Dubsado. And at one point, I was looking at one of them for some other project I was working at, and Dubsado was the one I picked to go with because just because.
Yeah, that's what I use. I use Dubsado, and I love it.
Yeah, yeah, I've heard all good things. So now you're fully into social media, and I know that for a lot of Etsy sellers, social media doesn't necessarily come naturally. For some people, it does, but for a number of us, it's a bit more of a struggle because we hear about the algorithm and
Hmm.
platforms changing and you know the features that they focus on shift. Instagram, for instance, initially was posts, then stories came out, then now reels, and then there's TikTok, and now Facebook is paying people to post real like videos, even though they don't call them reels, but really they're reels or slash TikTok videos. There's just so
Hmm.
much going on. Can you help to break it down for Etsy sellers and demystify social media? Let's first of all start with engagement. I know one of the easiest things as Etsy sellers to do is you list a product and then you just post it somewhere, throw it up
Hmm.
somewhere, and just hope that somebody sees it and buys it. But engagement is key. Can you tell
Yes.
us what is engagement and why is it so important?
So, engagement is very, very important to the success of your Instagram account. When we use Instagram, what we're really trying to do is create, community and connection with the people that will be buying our products or that will be following us. And the only way to build that connection is to engage with them.
Mhm.
And right now, and it's 2022, it's not the same as Instagram was in 2015 or even 2013, the early days of Instagram, where everybody was just freely following people. People are so much more guarded now about who they're
Mhm,
going to follow, and they don't just follow anybody. So you have to give them a reason to follow you, and
mhm,
a good way to start that conversation to get people to follow you is to start engaging with them on their account.
mhm,
So I always say, who is your target audience? Go find them in hashtags, go find them on community pages, and start engaging with them there. And the other thing that I feel gets overlooked, because when you're engaging with people that aren't following you, that's external engagement, right? They're not your
mhm,
following, you're wanting them to be a follower, but they're not yet.
mhm,
The more important one is your internal following, the people that have already committed to following you. So they already want to absorb your content and see your products and see what you have to say. So when you also want to engage with them too. So go to their profiles and engage on their posts and like and comment on their things. And what that does for you is, ideally, I mean, the ultimate goal is to build connection, but hopefully they will come back to your Instagram and they'll engage on your post too. And so when you post and people start engaging on it, that tells Instagram that your post is good, and then they push it to more people in the algorithm. So your engagement is really important, and so is the following that you've created.
So what counts as engagement? Is is someone merely just watching the video considered them engaging with it, or do they have to take some extra action like it or comment or share it?
Yep, they have to take the extra action. So
Okay.
just viewing the reel doesn't
Mhm,
count as engagement, but if they like it, save it, share it,
mhm.
comment on it, that counts as engagement.
Okay. And I've heard that some some platforms, Instagram in particular, monitors how much engagement you get within a
Yes.
certain period of time of posting your content, whether it's a post, a story, or a reel. Then
Mhm.
is that true? And if we don't get enough engagement in that time, what should we expect?
I would say that's more true to static posts that you're posting to your feed, and not so much true with reels.
Okay.
So when you make a post to your feed, that post lives for about 24 to 36 hours.
Okay.
And then Instagram stops showing it essentially to
Hmm.
people. So it's important to get engagement on the post when you post it. That's why they say, the best time to post is 7 p.m., whatever your time is. It's You want to follow the best time to posting, because that's when your following is most active and when they're most likely
Mm.
to engage on your content. And if they engage on your content, then it pushes it further into the algorithm and you might hit the discovery page or move up in the hashtags. So, yeah, it is more important on posts. It's not as important on reels, and I'm not really sure why, but I have noticed with my reels personally, some of them will track right away. They'll start getting views right away. And some of
Mhm.
them will start getting views 2 weeks after I post them. And I
Whoa.
don't know, I don't know why that's happening, but yeah, that's happened multiple times where I make a reel and I post it and I'm like, oh man, that must not have been a good one. Nobody liked it. And then 2 weeks later, my phone is nonstop blowing up because
Really?
apparently that reel hit the algorithm.
Huh, interesting. Okay, so posts versus reels. Should we just dump the posts and focus on reels?
I would say not, and that's probably not the most popular opinion, but I feel like there is value in static posts.
Mhm,
Now, with a reel though, you are going to get further in the algorithm. There's no doubt about that. Instagram is competing with TikTok and they are doing what they
mhm,
can to push content in reels. And so
mhm.
if you're not utilizing reels, I highly, highly encourage it. But
Okay.
no, I do not think that static posts are dead. They don't get as much engagement or as many views, I guess. Views is a better word. but they do provide value. So if you're sending posts out, like, for example, you know, three tips to do blank, that's a good static post. And
Okay.
another thing you can do too is repurposing your posts. So let's say you do, you know, three tips to blank. In 2 weeks or a month later, you can take that static post and turn it into a reel. And now you got two pieces of content out of one idea.
How do you turn a static post into a reel? Aren't reels videos?
Mhm. Yeah, so it's super easy. So if you you just take your content from your static post and then you go on video and you just talk about it. And that's it.
Oh, oh, I like that. Okay.
Yep. Yep. That's what I
Okay.
do. I like to repurpose content as much as I can. So highly
Mhm.
recommend repurpose all your content.
Okay. And while we're on the topic, can you tell people where they can find you if they want to hop over and look while we're having our conversation? I will also put these links in the show notes for anyone who wants to go check out what Becky is doing. But what's the quickest way folks can find you?
Yep. So you can find me on Instagram. My I am at Chipera Creative, and I'll spell that. It's Chipera Creative. And then my website is chiperacreative.com. And I also respond really fast via email at Becky at chiperacreative.com as well.
Great. Now you threw in TikTok there, so I'm going to kind of
Yes.
rewind a bit. TikTok, I hear it's actually better for business than Instagram.
Yes. Let's talk about that.
That's
So, I my personal opinion, I do have a TikTok too. I actually use TikTok for Etsy, and I grew my TikTok following so much faster than my Instagram
Mm,
following.
mm,
Um, and it's because TikTok's algorithm is really good, and we're in the beginning stages of TikTok. So I don't know if anybody listening remembers the beginning stages of Instagram and how easy it was how easy it was to get organically found in the beginning stages of Instagram. That's where we're at right now with TikTok. So
okay.
if you're not on TikTok, I highly recommend getting on there and just putting yourself out there.
And by putting yourself out there, do you mean you need
Start
to dance?
No. You don't need to dance. Start creating content. So there's all types of content you can create that doesn't involve dancing.
Okay. For an Etsy seller, what would that look like?
So Etsy sellers, they should be getting on TikTok and they should be filming their behind the scenes, um, physically making the product.
Mm,
That's what always, when I was documenting my Etsy journey, that's what got the most views was when
mm,
I was sitting there creating, making the jewelry. I had
mhm,
my camera pointed directly over my hands as I was making, and
mhm.
then I would do a voiceover and I would pair it with a trending song. So if
Okay.
you are an active user on TikTok, it's pretty easy to figure out what songs are trending.
Mhm,
And you want to use those trending songs, those trending sounds in your TikToks because they'll get pushed further. I also recommend if you haven't started a TikTok yet, or you do have a TikTok and you don't have access to the commercially licensed music. Um, I would put yourself as a creator account because the
mhm.
creator accounts get access to the fun music. The business accounts do not.
Yes, I was going to ask about that. Yeah. But then are there any downsides to remaining a creator? Like are there limitations like with Instagram where you only get one live link? Does TikTok have similar limitations for creator versus business accounts?
The main limitation is on a creator account, you don't get access to a link in your profile until you hit 1,000 followers.
Aha.
So, with a business account, you get the link right away. But it's my personal opinion, you should just suffer without the link for a bit because if you're able to use those viral songs,
Yeah.
you're gonna do better on TikTok than not using them.
Okay. Well, I'm suffering without the link right now, but that's okay.
You'll get there, you'll get there.
All right. So, oh, I had another question for you. Um, what do you, so as a social media manager, who do you
Yes.
target and what do you offer them specifically?
So I target small business owners, which I know is a really big market, and
Mhm.
I'm personally still working on niching down. I'm not convinced that I have to niche down, but but I do. I work with small business owners, and all of my clients right now are in different lines of business.
Okay.
So yeah, what was the rest of the question? Who do I target?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, and what services do I
What
offer? That was
services
the
do you
other half.
offer? Yeah.
So I offer full service social media management. So
Mhm.
clients come to me because they don't have time to manage their own social media. I have one client that just hates social media, period, and wants nothing to do with it.
Mm,
So she gave me the full reins. And what I do is I plan a full month of content for my client. I mean, we have a meeting, we discuss goals, objectives, the content that needs to go out for that month, and then I create the captions, the hashtags, the graphics. I curate the feed if they don't use graphics. Like one of my clients is a bakery, and so we use very few graphics because she has so many beautiful pictures. So
mm.
I do all that, create the strategy, and then I confirm everything with the owner, and then I take it and I schedule it and monitor it. And I also will edit and manually post the reels for them too. Because
Okay.
unfortunately, you can't schedule reels yet.
Okay, got it. So, um, when you do that, how does the client show up? I guess in that situation, you're highlighting their product, and so the person themselves doesn't need to be the quote star of the channel.
It I actually would say they do need to be the star,
Okay.
because if especially if they're a smaller business, people wanna buy from people they like, right?
Hmm.
They
Hmm.
don't wanna buy, just from anybody. So, it is so good, and I really encourage everybody to get comfortable with posting photos of themselves on their Instagram, because people love to see your products too, but people love to see the person behind the products,
Okay.
and it gives it a more human feel. And also, to answer your question, how as a social media manager managing accounts for clients, how do I bring authenticity to
Yeah.
their account? I do a deep dive on their account and I learn how they speak, and then I
Mhm.
write in their brand voice. And I
Mhm.
also have them review everything before it goes out, and they can make any tweaks to the captions. I mean, they can tell me they don't like the post at all. That's happened a couple times, and then we redo it.
Okay.
So, it's very important for my clients to still be the face of their business, and they
Yeah.
provide me with all of their branded photos, and that's how we get them on there. And then I also really encourage them to use stories. Stories
Mm.
are big, and stories I can't help as much with stories because really stories is to be used for the business owner showing their face and getting on there and showing up
Mm.
for their audience and talking. And so yeah, that's another easy way for the business owner to have their account managed but still be a part of it. They get
Okay.
to have the hard stuff done, the feed is taken care of, and then they can do the fun stories.
Yeah. Okay. I want to go back to something that you mentioned, a tip that you gave to Etsy sellers for the type of content to post on social media. And you mentioned showing behind the scenes, etc., like work in
Yes.
progress. But we have sellers who aren't. selling things that are handmade. They perhaps sell digital products or vintage
Mhm.
products. So those types of sellers, what what should they be posting?
They can post so many things. So the first things that come to my mind is, if they're a vintage seller, post a video of your inventory. How do you store your products? I think
Mhm.
that would be something really cool. Post a video of you sourcing for the vintage items. Post a video of how you determine. I mean, I guess I'm personally interested. How do you determine something is vintage? That would be a really great post.
Right. Yeah.
For digital sellers, oh, there's so many. I love the digital sellers because they can actually take screen recordings on their computers and screen record them creating. And then you can,
Yeah.
yes, and then you can speed up. So it's not like, hours on hours of
Mm-hmm.
creation.
Mm-hmm.
You can speed up hours and hours into a 30-second clip, and it looks awesome. I also love to see the digital, I don't know if digital designer is the right word, but where you draw on your iPad, a digital creator, and
Yeah.
they have their camera set up over their iPad, and then they draw on their
Oh
iPad.
yeah. Yeah. You're right. I've seen those. Those are cool.
Yes, those get really high engagement, especially if you pair them with a viral sound. And then the
Mhm.
other thing too is, you don't have to post your products or behind the scenes. You can simply show up on camera and talk about your business.
Mhm. Yeah. And I think that's probably the easiest, right?
You
Um,
know, I think for some maybe, but for me it was the hardest because I used to hate
really?
being on camera. Yes.
Yeah. I would think easy because it's something that you know about. You don't have to prep, you don't have to, but yes, the camera factor is huge.
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah. So one of the things that, with social media, and this might just be an old school way of thinking about and approaching social media, is looking at numbers and looking at one's following. Um,
Mhm.
how important are the numbers and the people who are following us? How much
Yes.
attention should we be paying to that, if any?
I would love to go into that. So first, let's talk about the followers because your following is a vanity metric, and I'm going to explain why. There are so many people that think they have to get 10,000 followers to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
And really the only thing that 10,000 followers used to get you was you could put a link in your stories, and now Instagram has opened that up to everyone. So you don't need 10,000 followers anymore to do that, which is
Mm-hmm.
great. Um, but your following, you really want to create a following of people that actually want to consume your content. So
Mm-hmm.
I hear so often, in fact, I just got this question today from a client. Bots are following her and she didn't know what the appropriate action was to do because, on the one hand, she likes that the bot increases her following count and makes her look more, I don't know, expert.
Famous.
But on the other hand though, that bot actually brings down your engagement rate. So what's
Mm-hmm.
happening is, and I'm going to circle back to something I said earlier, when you post on Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
Instagram relies on your following to engage on the content first before
Mm-hmm.
it knows that it's going to push it further in the algorithm.
Okay.
And when you have a bunch of bot accounts following you, those are all fake accounts that aren't going to comment and like and look at your content.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not important. I actually go through and I delete bots at least once a month off of my following. And also, your following is not a measure of success. I quit my job at 176 followers. That's it.
On Instagram?
On Instagram. Yeah, I
Whoa.
was making a with just 176 followers because all
Wow.
you need is a handful of quality followers. quality
Mm,
over quantity all day long.
mm.
So now that I got that out of the way, I got my spiel out about followers. Don't get me wrong, if you want to grow your following, I totally
Yeah,
understand that it's important, but it's more important to find people that actually want to buy your product and consume your content than just an empty follower, in my
yes.
opinion.
Yeah, I
Um,
like that.
but for the insights, yes, all day, yes. Look at those insights. So they tell you so much information. I'll tell you the big ones to pay attention to because I feel like Instagram is really overwhelming. And
Okay.
my clients, so at the end of every month we have a meeting. We go
Mhm,
over their insights from the month before, and then we do our planning. And I have been told multiple times that my insight review is overwhelming because I go over every single number, and I've
mhm.
learned nobody likes that. so so now we just focus on the big numbers. So the big
Okay.
numbers are your follower count, of course. I mean, I know it's a
Yes.
vanity metric, but it is important. We want to grow it.
Mhm.
And then but more important than your follower count is your engagement, your accounts engaged, your accounts reached, your impressions, your profile viewers. So, how many people are actually going back and looking at your profile,
Okay.
your website taps, and then if you have a brick and mortar, how many people are clicking on your location, your address.
Oh, okay. Good. Well, that helps because yes, I go into insights and I look around and I see the numbers. I'm like, okay, back out.
Yes, I know, it's so much. Oh, and another one that's, important to look at is your top posts. So
Okay.
and I specifically focus so there's top posts and engagement and top posts and reach and top posts and likes. I focus on the top posts in the reach section of your insights
Okay.
to get a gauge of what content people like most, and then that helps us plan for the next month.
Okay, because that was going to be my next question was, okay, so we see the numbers, what do we do? But that
Mhm.
will help direct future content that we're going to create.
Yes. Yep, it will. And the
Okay.
only downside about the numbers is if you have a reel that goes viral or if you have a
Mhm.
reel that does really good, then the numbers get hard to digest because
Mhm.
that one post kind of messed up all of your numbers because now you're going to have one month that looks really good knowing it was only that one post, or I mean
Okay.
there could be more, but if your post went viral, that's going to majorly impact that month, and then your next month is going to be majorly impacted because it's comparing the month prior.
Oh, I
So just
see.
keep an eye on that and don't feel bad because if you had a reel go viral one month and then not the next month, you're still doing good.
Okay. Any other tips and tricks for Instagram that we should
Y-
be aware of?
Yes, I have one. I thought everybody knew it, but I guess they don't. So I wrote it down specifically so I wouldn't forget.
Okay.
So if you are on Instagram and you have a business account and you want to do reels, but you are very disappointed in the song selection because you have a business account,
Yeah.
what you need to do is go into the category section and change the category to entrepreneur. And for
Whoa.
some reason, that opens up all of the commercially licensed music and sounds.
Really?
Yep. Yes.
For
So go
entrepreneurs?
entrepreneur. Yep. So change your category to entrepreneur, and then you can hide the category um, from your profile. The other tip that I have, speaking of your profile,
Mhm.
is when you're looking at your Instagram account, that first line that has typically your name on it,
Yeah.
that line is searchable.
Okay.
So you want to make sure what is listed in that line is what your job, what you offer, what you're doing. If you go and look at my profile, you'll see my line says Becky social media manager because I want to come up in
Mm,
searches for social media manager.
okay. Okay, that makes sense. Is that the only searchable place on Instagram? Instagram is so mysterious. Like they look here, but they don't look
Mhm.
there. Like,
Yes. As of right now, that is the only searchable,
okay.
spot.
Okay. All right. Wow, thank you. I had no idea. So On TikTok, stay as a creator, not business. On Instagram, switch to business, but select entrepreneur.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Okay, good. I mean, amongst everything else you said, there's a lot. So, folks
Mhm.
might need to rewind and re-listen, and that's
Yes.
okay. And one more thing that I would like to touch on is Pinterest. Pinterest has been Etsy sellers' good friend
Mhm.
for a long time, and I don't know if you're aware of this, but as of the day we're recording this conversation, Pinterest recently, and I think it was within the last week or two, is no longer allowing you to claim an Etsy shop. It's like they've cut ties with Etsy in a way.
Yes.
What's that about, and what do sellers do now?
I don't know where that decision came from, so I can't comment on that, but I
Okay.
do have some suggestions of what sellers can do because Pinterest is very important. Um, I love Pinterest. So what you can still do on Etsy is you can still link your website or your shop back. So you may not be able to claim it. Like I think is it the shoppable pins that they got rid
Yeah.
of?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can still link your shop back. So let me break that down. So there's two
Okay.
types of pins. There's the normal pin that we're all used to, and now there's the idea pin.
Mhm.
So as we all know, Pinterest is actually more of a search engine than it is a social media. But Pinterest is actually trying to, or they have, they're doing their own version of social media
Mhm.
with the idea pins. And so what the idea pins do, the downside about idea pins is you can't put a link on them, but Pinterest does push them further in their algorithm. So what I've heard from Pinterest experts say is you want to do a mix of both. You want to continue to post pins that have your website linked, but then you also want to create idea pins so that Pinterest pushes the idea pin further in the algorithm. And the idea is that somebody sees your idea pin, they'll click on your profile, they'll go back to your profile and ideally give you a follow. While they're looking at your profile, they will see all of your pins, potentially click on one, and then will get redirected to your Etsy shop.
Wow. That
That's the
sounds.
and yes, and I'm not a Pinterest expert by any means,
Yeah.
but that is just what I have heard from the
Yeah.
experts.
Okay. Okay. So idea pins and regular pins, use them both. They have
Yes.
different functions, and we need the blend.
Yes.
What
Mhm.
about video pins?
Video pins?
Yeah.
So that's still an idea pin
Okay.
or a regular pin. You can just put a video on there instead.
Okay. Okay. So it goes
The
both ways.
The only thing with Pinterest that I would caution people about is when you're creating on Reels and TikTok, you have access to commercially licensed music.
Mm-hmm.
On Pinterest, you don't. So I would be very careful posting any, like repurposing any content from your TikTok or Instagram over to Pinterest
Oh.
because they and I've not had this happen, but it just scares me. So I tell all of my clients that I repurpose their content to that we change the music that's being posted to Pinterest and we try to use the music that Pinterest allows.
Okay. Okay. Good to know. And just as an aside, I heard through the grapevine, and this did not come from Becky for anyone who is listening. This came from a completely unrelated grapevine that Pinterest might be trying to come up with how do you say, like a clapback to Etsy. So they might be working on some type of marketplace similar to Etsy that will be housed in the Pinterest ecosystem.
I have heard that. I don't
Okay.
know if it's true, but
I
yeah,
don't know.
they
Yeah.
are working they came out with, oh gosh, I think it was just a couple weeks ago, an update to what is going on at Pinterest, and it was so long. There were so many things they're doing. I'm really excited about the future of Pinterest.
I am
And,
too.
one of the things that they're doing that I think is amazing is so as a creator, if you don't have a product per se, but you create content, you have a
Mhm,
large following, you do, ads, whatever,
mhm,
you have to have a lot. I think it's 10,000 on TikTok to get into the creator fund. You have to have 10,000 followers. I
mm.
don't know what it is on Instagram, but on Pinterest, it's only 1,000 followers right now.
Whoa, really?
So, yeah, and it's a new from what I understand, it's a new program that they are putting out there, and that's why the idea pins are really intriguing because the idea pins encourage followers. So if you can get to 1,000 followers on Pinterest, you
Oh,
could potentially get paid for the content that you post to Pinterest.
okay. The way Facebook is, sorry, I feel like I keep unearthing new social media platforms for us to talk about. But I know right now Facebook is paying creators to post real life videos on their pages.
Yep, they are. I
Yeah.
have a client that actually has that.
Oh,
That 'cause
really?
it's beta tested right now. Not
Mhm.
everybody gets access to it.
Okay, okay. Wow, so much going on in the world of social media.
Mhm. There's a
Exciting
lot.
times. Yeah, I imagine it's exciting times for you because this is your playground.
Mhm. Yeah, it is.
So Becky, if you had to summarize for that seller who is listening now and maybe starting to feel a bit overwhelmed, where would you say they should focus their efforts on? Should they pick just one platform? And if so, which one? Or is two okay? And if so, which two? And what should they be doing right now? But just so they don't get too overwhelmed with everything.
So if you are doing it all alone and you need to focus on I would focus on one platform because it is, a lot to do multiple platforms.
Yeah.
So what I would do, honestly, it's hard to I'm conflicted because on TikTok you have an easier chance to grow because of their
Yeah.
algorithm. So
Yes.
if you grow on TikTok, then you can grow on Instagram. I have a friend on TikTok, or I have a friend in real life. She created a TikTok during COVID, during the pandemic,
Hmm.
and she grew her TikTok following to 200,000 in like a year,
Oh my
and then
goodness.
like half of those people filtered over into her Instagram following. So now she has an Instagram following of like 100,000.
Wow.
So it's just it's kind of it's hard to say which one because I love both platforms for different reasons.
Yeah.
Um, TikTok is easier to grow on, but you're stuck with only video content.
Mhm.
Instagram is not as easy to grow on, but you have a wide range of content you can post, and it's
Mhm.
easier to build a connection on Instagram than it
Oh,
is on
yes.
TikTok.
Yes. Oh, you make some really good points. I was hoping you'd convince me to dump one, but
What you
yeah.
could do is focus on Instagram, but repurpose all of your reels over to TikTok.
Okay. Does Instagram, because I know TikTok watermarks their videos, and I've heard that Instagram doesn't like that.
They don't.
Okay, so do it the reverse. Do do everything in Reels, then just send it to Instagram. I mean, to
Actually,
TikTok.
I find it difficult to create in Reels because there isn't an easy way to get the Reels watermark off of the video. So, what
Okay.
I typically do is I create using my camera, like just my standard camera on my phone, and
Uh-huh.
then I have the raw video. So,
Yeah.
then I'll go over to Reels and post it with the song, and then I'll go over to TikTok and post it with the song. Now, where
Okay.
that gets complicated is if you're doing a voiceover skit, like not a commercially licensed song, just a somebody said something in a video and made it a sound.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
that you do, it's so hard to film outside of the app. So I prefer
Yeah.
to film those in TikTok, and then I
Okay.
just make sure the sound is available in Reels and
Reels.
Instagram.
Okay. Okay. Whew, lots to think about. All right.
Hmm.
So for the person who might be feeling like, okay, I've listened to this, it all sounds all well and good. I still don't want to do it myself. Can you
Yes.
talk about your service and what you can offer that seller?
Yes, if you are listening and it all sounds great, but you need help executing all of the platforms, um, send me a message and I can help. I have, if you go to my website, chiperacreative.com, you can actually download my service guide on there and it will get emailed to you and it will tell you all of the package offerings that I have, what comes in each package, and what the price is. But all of the packages are very similar. They all include strategy and creating content for you. So you don't have to actually do the heavy lifting and have the
Mhm.
mental load and the mental stress of creating the content yourself.
Okay. And again, that's chipperacreative.com. I will have a link to Becky's website as well as to her profile on Instagram and her emails. So if you're driving or you're out walking and you didn't have a chance to write this down, everything will be over at confome.com, um, on the webpage in the post in the show notes for this particular episode. Becky, thank you so much for coming back. Now I wonder what's going to happen a year from now. I feel like we'll need to have another conversation because
Yes.
you will have blown up by then, and maybe have your own TikTok and Instagram course and all that
Oh
good stuff
man.
that happens when you have this knowledge and you're just eager to share it and help and all those good
Mhm.
things. That's my hope for you.
Oh, thanks.
You are so welcome. Thanks again for coming back on the podcast. It's a pleasure to have you, and I'm glad to be relaunching with the return guest.
Yay, I'm so glad you had me. Yeah, thank you for having me on your podcast. I really, really enjoy being here and I love your podcast.
Thanks, Becky. And thank you for listening to this episode of the podcast. I will be back with another one next week. If you've enjoyed listening to this episode of the podcast, please go to convome.com/support to help support the work I do on the podcast. You can choose to buy me a coffee or become a monthly podcast supporter and get some extra perks. Again, go to convome.com/support to do that. And I will be back with another episode next week.